The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and millions of people were watching. It was supposed to be just another political event, another moment in the spotlight for J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha Vance. But then, something happened that no one expected. Usha Vance, known for her grace and composure, stood up with tears in her eyes. She shocked the entire nation when she did something no one could have predicted. This was the moment that changed everything. Ever since J.D. Vance became Donald Trump's running mate, he and his wife Usha were thrown into the national spotlight. Suddenly, Usha wasn't just a respected lawyer. She was the potential Second Lady of the United States. What should have been a historic moment quickly turned into a nightmare. People began attacking her. At first, the criticism was subtle. Small remarks on social media, quiet doubts about her role. But soon, it turned into an overwhelming wave of scrutiny. Every detail of her life was put under a microscope. Her career, her past, even her family history. Nothing was off limits. Some questioned if she truly fit into an America First government. Others accused her of being out of place, of being too different. The media speculated endlessly about her background. Political commentators debated whether she was the right kind of person to stand beside J.D. Vance. Social media was flooded with attacks, some subtle, some outright cruel. No matter what she did, she was criticized. If she spoke up, she was accused of interfering. If she stayed quiet, she was called weak. Even her body language was analyzed. How she stood next to J.D. Vance, what she wore, how she smiled. It was a relentless cycle of judgment and pressure. Despite everything, Usha tried to hold her head high. She smiled at events, she stood proudly beside her husband, and she refused to let the negativity break her. But inside, the cracks were forming. The pressure wasn't just political, it was deeply personal. She wasn't just being criticized, she was being erased, being made to feel like she didn't belong. It was supposed to be just another political event. J.D. Vance sat on stage answering questions as he had done many times before. The crowd was watching. The cameras were recording. Everything seemed normal. Then, an elderly woman in the audience stood up. She wasn't a journalist. She wasn't a politician. She was just a citizen. But when she spoke, her voice cut through the air like a knife. She asked a question that changed everything. J.D. Vance's face stiffened. He was used to tough questions, used to handling pressure. But this question was different. His hands gripped the table. His jaw tightened. For a moment, he looked completely lost. Then from the crowd, there was a movement. Usha Vance stood up. It was a small action, but it sent a wave of shock through the room. She wasn't just standing, she was making a statement. The whispers started immediately. People turned to look at her. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with emotion. The months of attacks, the endless judgment, the constant pressure. It was all there, written on her face. She didn't wipe her tears. She didn't try to hide her feelings. She just stood there staring at her husband, the man who had been by her side through it all. Then she took a step forward. Then another. The sound of her footsteps echoed in the silent room. She reached for the microphone. Every camera zoomed in. Every journalist held their breath. For months, people had talked about her, criticized her, tried to define who she was. But now they had no choice but to listen. She held the microphone tightly. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. It was a voice full of raw emotion, not just anger or frustration, but deep, undeniable truth. "I have been silent for too long," she said. "I have stood by and watched as people have tried to erase me, tried to twist my identity into something it's not. I have been called things I am not. I have been judged without being heard. But today I will not be silent." The room was frozen. No one expected this. No one was prepared for the truth she was about to reveal. They told me I was a problem, a burden, a distraction, not because of anything I did, but because of who I am. They wanted me to disappear. They wanted me to step aside quietly. But I won't. I am here, and I will not apologize for it. J.D. Vance's face was unreadable. He watched his wife, his partner, stand in front of the nation and finally, speak her truth. "I have been treated as if I don't belong," she continued, "as if I am just a piece in someone else's game. But I am not a pawn. I am not an accessory. I am a person. I am a wife. I am a mother. And I am more than what people have tried to make me." The crowd was silent. The news anchors leaned in closer. The entire nation was listening. For months I told myself to stay quiet, to be strong, to ignore the hate. But there comes a moment when silence is no longer strength, when speaking out is the only choice. And today, I choose to speak. Then, she did the unthinkable. She placed the microphone down. She looked at her husband one last time and she walked away. She didn't run. She didn't break down. She simply walked out of the room, leaving behind a stunned audience, a shocked nation, and a political career that would never be the same again. The news broke immediately. Headlines exploded across the internet. Usha Vance breaks down on Live TV. Second Lady candidate walks away from politics. Shocking resignation stuns the country. Some praised her courage. Others criticized her decision. But no one could deny that something had changed. J.D. Vance was left to answer the questions. The reporters bombarded him with demands for a statement, but he had no answers. All he could say was, "I support my wife, and I will always support her." In the days that followed, social media was flooded with debates. Some called her weak. Others called her brave. Some said she had been pushed too far. Others said she had finally taken control, but one thing was certain. Usha Vance was no longer just J.D. Vance's wife. She was her own person, and she had made sure the world knew it. No one expected this to happen. No one saw it coming. But in one moment, Usha Vance changed everything. She showed the world that silence is not always the answer, that sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is stand up, speak the truth, and walk away. This was not just a political moment. It was a moment of humanity, a moment of truth, and a moment that America will never forget.